welcome to A Good Walk Spoiled Adventures in Golf with your host, Scott Ponywaz, also known as Pony Golf. A Good Walk Spoiled is part of the Millions.co and Golfer Gang networks. Thank you for tuning in. Let's swing into this week's episode.
Another episode of A Good Walk Spoiled. I'm excited to have Danny Cahill on today's episode. Those of you might know him from his recently released book, How to Quit Golf and Get Your Life Back. So we're going to talk a little bit about the book today, of course, and a little bit about Danny's golfing experience. So let's just dive right in and tee this episode up. So Danny, welcome, and love to hear just a quick brief intro. How you got into golf and
and thanks for having me, Scott. So I'm sure this is true of a lot of your listeners. I never touched a golf club till I was 42. I thought it was something old people did. I didn't understand it. I thought, how can it be a sport? You don't sweat. And I was a serious tennis player for a long time. And in high school and college, I played basketball. And, I grew up at a time when there was, at least in my socioeconomic strata, which was like lower middle class, there was football, basketball, baseball. And golfers were these rich guys that you would sometimes drive by and see them walking across the cart path. I sort of weirdly was, as a sports person, aware as a really young kid that Jack Nicklaus was great, but I'd never seen him play. I didn't know why he was great. I just knew he was supposed to be the best. So it wasn't until my early 40s and had a successful business career going, and all of my tennis friends were starting to quit and playing golf. I couldn't get a tennis game anymore, and the only tennis game I could get was with these people half my age that were hitting the ball 125 miles an hour. And I was like, okay, well, that doesn't work. So maybe I should try this golf thing. Whenever you're trying to get into golf, people are thrilled to have a new person in the cult. So I had tons of friends who wanted to give me lessons, and they were completely contradictory. Unfortunately for me, because I was a decent athlete, they took me to the range, and the very first time I was there, I was able to hit the ball like 150 yards. I didn't realize that a year later I would still be hitting the ball 150 yards, and that I had no idea what I was doing. And that's when I started taking it up seriously. I write about this in the book. Then I got the golf bug, right? And then I got rid of my tennis rackets. I started watching the Golf Channel, and I was hooked.
That's awesome. Well, and I always have a lot of admiration for people that pick up golf later in life, because I started golfing when I was barely could walk, basically.
Yeah.
And the frustration of learning the game, as an adult, even more frustrating, I think, because you understand a little bit more, you care a little bit more. So what really got you moving forward in the game? Were there specific friends that started to influence you a little bit more?
Yeah, so I'm a super competitive person, and the appeal to golf as someone starting in their 50s was that in every other walk of life, I lift weights. At that time I was a cyclist. I had run a couple of marathons. I had played tennis seriously, but all of those things were in decline. I was never going to get that 300-pound bench press. Was never going to happen, and I couldn't play tennis as well as I used to. And it was just, the appeal to it was, here's something that people seem to really be competitive about. And every day, week, month that I took lessons and practice, I was getting better. So finally, something in midlife that I could actually improve on, that was the real appeal. I was like, I could get better. It's the only physical thing I can do that I can get better at. There was nothing else. Now, I didn't realize how long it would take to get better and how hard it would be to get better and how you would get better and then go backwards because, you tried a different putting grip and all of a sudden you suck again. And that was the thing I had to understand too, which I'm sure you guys get as lifetime golfers. Once I got to a point where I was a 4.5 tennis player. So a 4.5 tennis player is like a scratch golfer, right? So I might get beat by somebody who played better that day, but it's not like I got beat because I forgot how to play tennis. It's not like I all of a sudden couldn't remember how to serve. And golf was excruciating for me because I was like, okay, I did this yesterday. How did I forget to do this overnight? Like, how come yesterday I was able to hit this 7-iron and today I can't get it off? How does that happen? So I got caught up in the whole mystique of the thing and the frustration of it, and then got brought into the culture of it. And I didn't realize it at the time, but over the next 20 years, I finally realized, this is a whole culture. This is a whole phenomenon, and I find it when I'm not frustrated by it, really hilarious. So when it was time to write my third book, I was like, I'm going to write about golf.
Yeah. Well, and that was actually one of the parts that stood out. I did get a chance to kind of skim through the book a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think it was the second chapter where you do talk about the golf book and you talk about how no one abuses you like you abuse yourself when you're playing badly. And yeah, and I think that's so on point. And I'm a 2.5 handicap, and I played it.
Do you still do that as someone who's played your whole life? Is it still something you do to yourself?
Yes. Well, and I was going to say this last weekend, I played in the Montana State Amateur. I played some of the worst golf probably in, I don't know, 20 years. I shot a 90. I took a 10 on a hole. It was just, a weekend of, you couldn't figure out how to get the ball off the tee anymore.
Right.
Every putt was, just barely missing, and every iron was just barely missing the green, and so it was like just getting a bogey, you felt like you were getting a bogey at certain points.
Right.
So it still happens, and now I'm like, how do I get out of this whole golf yips thing that I've got going on? So with your background, I actually come from a little bit of a recruiting background. I sold my last company. Do you spend a lot of time on the golf course for your day job?
I don't. For me, it's a refuge from my day job. But it's not for everybody. I mean, there's no question. I know people who say, "Oh, you got into golf because you wanted to network and meet people at the sea level," and I'm like, I'm sure people do that, but no. For me, it was like I run a large recruiting firm. I have a online training and coaching business, and I'm a 12, 14-hour day guy and have been my whole career. So for me, it's 3.5 hours if I play at my club where I don't have to deal with that. Like, this must sound awful to those people who are listening who say, "Oh my God, you don't network." But I mean, I like to, on the first tee, I'll just show up at my club and get hooked up with guys on the tee. Now, at this point, I know some people, but I'm like, it's Scott, it's Dave, it's John. Okay, let's go. That's all I know. I don't know if you're a doctor. I don't know if you're a CEO. I don't care. I'm going to help you find your ball if you hit it sideways. I'm going to say nice shot if you hit a good shot. But I'm not looking to do business. I'm trying to spend 3.5 hours away from business. So I've probably thrown away a lot of opportunity over time, but for me.
Well, and as far as golf is concerned, do you typically just play at your home club, or are you a traveler and golfer vacation kind of guy?
Great question. No, it's so funny because I found that most guys who belong to a nice club like mine, it's the only place they'll play. They're like, I'm paying a lot of money for this place, so this is where I play golf. So when we come off the 18th green, the ball kids will come up and take your clubs, and they'll say, "We're going to store them today, Scott?" And you say, "Yes." And for me, they know. Bring them right up to my car because I get bored playing the same place. And if a buddy who doesn't happen to belong to a club says, "You want to play this public course tomorrow? Sure. And if I want to stop at a driving range on the way home, sure. I'm not going to drive 45 minutes just because my club gives me free balls, right? Like I'll pay $12 to hit a bucket of balls if it's closer to me. So no, my clubs are in my cart all the time. And it's yet another reason why people think I'm crazy. Like I really belong to my club to play golf. So I don't hang in the grill room for 3 hours after. I get made fun of all the time because I really don't know which locker is mine. I know it has my name on it, but I don't go upstairs to the locker because I live 15 minutes from my club and I can go home and shower. I don't need a shower here. So yeah, I barely use the facilities. I'm on the golf course. I'm putting my shoes on in the parking lot and going right to that first tee.
Makes sense. So getting into the book a little bit more. So
Yeah.
This is your third book now.
Yes.
The other two were not golf related books,
No.
though.
Nope.
So what sort of influenced you to go down this road of a golf book?
Yeah, so the stuff I write, and I was a playwright, a professional playwright before the books, and so I've had some plays produced off Broadway. So in general, I guess they would say I'm a darkly comic writer. I like things that are absurd about life, that are funny, and I like irony, and so I try to write, and I try to give the webinars that I give are supposed to be funny. I hope they are. So I had two bestsellers, and so because my publisher had made some money off the first two, one was a business novel, and the other one was a memoir, a personal memoir. They kind of gave me carte blanche. They're like, okay, you got a following now. Don't screw this up, but yeah, you can write whatever you want. And so when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to write about, I thought, there's an awful lot of books about golf, but they're usually, I was a caddy memoir, or here's a biography on Phil Mickelson, and here's, all the crazy things he did to bet money, or they're instructional books, and you go on YouTube and it's all instruction. And I thought, there's the only time anybody's ever tried to make a comedy about golf, other than Caddyshack, which was, kind of extreme for my taste, would be Tin Cup, which I thought was fine, but it was like almost 30 years ago, right? And if you watch Tin Cup now, I mean, the clothes look crazy, the clubs look crazy. And I thought, nobody's written about my people, meaning middle-aged golfers who play 2-3 times a week, and yet it has an outsized place in their life. Like they're texting their friends, they're looking on their Gin app to see what Scott's handicap was after this week's rounds, and they're talking for 3 months about the member guest that's coming up, and if they shoot 74, they're blowing up their Facebook, posting it like anybody cares, and they're talking about it too much at home, and nobody at home cares. And I realized that this is just a rich culture to kind of tell this story. So I came up with this story of a middle-aged golfer who gets addicted to golf, and he starts ignoring the important things: his wife, his kids, his job, and he's playing way too much golf, not getting any better, and he knows he should quit, and he struggles to quit. He keeps trying to quit, and it keeps not allowing him to quit. And I think the struggle is real, as the kids say. Golf is at once, and this is the part that's fascinating to me, it's at once a complete, utter waste of time. It's too expensive. It takes too long to get good. Past a certain point, you're not going to get any better, and yet you can't wait to play tomorrow. So to me, that's what makes it magic. It's magic.
Well, and you can have the worst round, and then on the 18th, you par or birdie with a great shot, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, I can still play this game. Come back the next day.
Or you can have the opposite. I shot 78 yesterday, and that's a really good score for me. I'm a garden variety 10 handicap, but I double bogeyed 17 and bogeyed 18. So I finished 3 over the last 2 holes. So instead of me going home saying, hey, I broke 80, that's not bad for a guy like me, I was like, oh, I hit 75 right there. I should have shot 70. What a terrible human I am. I'm just a bad human. And I beat myself up all the way home. It never ends. It's amazing.
So true. So
Yeah.
how much of the book is based on your own personal experiences in golf?
It's fiction in the sense that the character in the book has a wife and 2 kids. One is college age, and he's taking him to colleges to look at colleges while he's fooling around on his golf app. I don't have kids. I'm not married. I'm divorced. Never had kids. So that character's made up, but I know that character because I see them all the time. I have people who work for me who are golfers. Like I know that world pretty well, but I was detached enough to be able to observe it. So it's not biographical, although certainly a lot of the feelings the main character has, I certainly wrestled with it for sure. Yeah. I've thought about quitting a million times, but never seriously.
Yes.
When the book first came out, all my friends said, I saw your book in the bookstore. Are you quitting golf? No, I wish I could, but no, I'm not. Why, you want to play Friday? You know, that kind of.
Sure. I'll get out there. So what, within the book, I guess, do you have a favorite part or a favorite story that you want to share?
Well, there's a part in the book where, and this is probably as close to biographical. There's a part of the book where he's in a lot of trouble. His wife has caught him claiming to be somewhere else, and he's actually on a golf course. She's had enough, and she's going to leave him. And then he hurts his back swinging a golf club, and it's a serious back injury, and he's got 6 months laid up. And it basically saves his marriage. And so, but he's got nothing to do but sit around and watch Golf Channel and think about his way back. So that part's real. I know what it's like. I've had fairly serious back injuries over time from all the time I spent in the gym. And I'm sure golf didn't help with the torque of golf. So I know what it's like to have a serious back injury. So I think there's stuff in the book about how all of a sudden you could be midlife and then you have this injury and you're like, oh, I thought today was going to be about this. But now my whole day has changed. Like when he gets hurt in the book, he was trying to figure out how to convince his wife not to leave him. And then all of a sudden he's on the ground and they're calling an ambulance. And you think, oh, I thought today was about this, but it's really going to be about this. And that happened to me. I was taken out of a gym in an ambulance and had to deal with serious back injuries. And so I know what it's like to have to rehab an injury and how it makes you think about your life and perspective and mortality and all that stuff. So that part's, I think, pretty real. And the readers that email me say that it resonates pretty well because we've all had our stuff, right? Everybody has an injury or a loss or something that makes them go, this is different. This is not what I thought was going to be happening to me now, right?
Yeah. So with this book, I mean, obviously it's your third and you've got publishers and things like that. What advice do you have for people who are maybe thinking the same thing you thought of, golf needs a new book, something a little more edgy, something a little more fun? How do you sort of get that idea pen to paper and get started on writing a book?
Yeah, people always ask me that, like, where do you get ideas for things to write about? I mean, part of the answer is I really don't know. Like, there have been times when ideas would just pop into my head, or I'll see a situation unfolding and I'll say, oh, that could be a story. Or what tends to happen is something happens in one way, and then I say, wouldn't it be interesting if this other thing happened? Which is why I write fiction and plays, because real life is generally too boring to actually record. That was the hard part about my second book, which was called Aging Disgracefully, because it was a memoir. So it was really what happened to me during that period, the back injury, divorce, midlife stuff. And you had to say, oh, okay, I got to remember this exactly because this is a memoir, not fiction. But generally speaking, I think what I tell writers, it's when people say write what you know. I don't think you necessarily have to write what you know. I don't know what it's like to play in an amateur event like the one you played in this weekend. I'm not that good, but I have feelings and I have empathy. So I can certainly, I think I could write a pretty good book about professional golf or professional tennis players, because I've learned enough and I've watched enough and I've empathized enough to know what that human must be feeling in that time. you know? So it's like, just write about whatever you really care about. Like what stays with you. Like to me, it's always been, okay, I keep thinking about this. Now it's been a week, a month, a year, whatever thing I'm thinking about. This will not leave me. It will haunt me until I get it out of me. So I might as well write a book, you know? I mean, I knew because of the crazy things that happened during the period of my divorce, I was smart enough to know this shit is crazy. Like this would make a great, you know, play or book, but I can't write it now because I'm in the middle of it and you have no distance and no objectivity. So it took me 8 years after that divorce to start writing that book. But with golf, it was just, I want to write a funny book after the heaviness of my memoir. And every weekend, I'm like, something will happen that just cracks me up about this game. You know, it's such a human game. You know, you get humbled, you get rewarded. It's capricious. You know, always dependent on the weather, and it doesn't matter who you are, you never will master it. You know, you'll never master it. You know, I watched the Open this weekend, and you know, it's like, okay, if you happen to get the nasty weather at the end of the day, you weren't going to be able to chase. There's just no way you're going to catch them. But if you happen to have the nice weather where there was no wind, well, is that fair? No. Who said it's fair? And that is appealing to me about golf. It is in no way, shape, or form fair. And when people say, you know, life's pretty fair, what? No, it isn't. That's what's great about golf. It's not fair at all. It doesn't pretend to be, and you shouldn't cry about it because it's not fair. No, you're hitting a little ball around, you know, nature. How is it ever going to be fair? Like, it's not possible.
Well, and those that are, you know, just sort of listening or maybe missed it at the beginning, Danny wrote the book How to Quit Golf and Get Your Life Back, which is what we're talking about here. So what's sort of in the hopper for the next book, or, you know, what's going to evolve with this particular book? Do you think there's another golf book in the cards, or maybe a play or a movie? Or
yeah, you know, I'm already getting people asking me about taking this character and doing something else golf wise with him. I'm not really good at that. Like once I read about something, I tend to want to write about something else, you know. So I don't know. I've spent God, it's 30 years now. So for 30 years, I've been a motivational speaker and I speak at conferences. So there's another world, right? There's another cult, the world of conferences and speakers, and I know that world pretty well. So that's I kind of have my eyes on that, like to write about. And I think people are fascinated by public speaking. You know, I've been doing it so long, and I was in theater before, so I never really had the nerves that I see every week. You know, I'll go to a conference, and all somebody has to do is stand up and read my bio and say, you know, our keynote speaker today is Danny Cahill. Here's his bio, and I see their hands shaking and they're sweating profusely. You know, and the old saying is the biggest fear someone has is public speaking, and the second biggest fear someone has is dying, which is remarkable to me as a speaker, because that means that at a wake, you would rather be in the box than talking about the person in the box. That's crazy. So that world fascinates me too. The world of everybody wants to be a speaker, and yet if they knew what it was really like, they probably wouldn't want to be. Everybody finds it terrifying. And once you do it, you get such a rush that you want to do it again. At the same time, a professional speaker spends most of his time in bad hotels, you know, eating bad food, watching HBO, and, you know, never seeing their family, and then getting on a plane and having the plane delayed and doing it again just so they can give the same speech 4 days later they gave 4 days before. So the irony of that, and yet they go up there and everybody thinks they're the biggest, smartest, happiest person in the world, because that's what a motivational speaker does. It comes back to haunt me on the golf course, because I'll be doing a best ball with a friend, and you know, they'll have 4 double bogeys in a row, and they'll say, "What? You don't have any motivational speech for me? You can't help me here?" No, I cannot. No, I cannot. I will get another partner for next week, but no, I cannot.
Well, and which is more stressful, stepping up on the stage or stepping up on the first tee during a member event? Or...
That's what's so crazy about it. That's why I have such admiration for people who started, like you said, you were a little kid. So I see the junior program at my club a lot. And the pro, Brian Phelps, who's a great coach, he teaches the juniors. And, these kids are 5, 6, 7, and he just tells them, let's just have some fun. Just swing as hard as you can. Don't worry about where the ball goes. And, at 4 or 5, they've got toy clubs and they're just sort of having fun. But then I see his 8 and 9-year-old players, and they have golf swings, man. I mean, I don't like to hit balls next to these kids. Like, it's embarrassing. And they just have no fear, right? So that person, 30 years later, he could take 10 years off, that kid, from playing golf. He's going to go to the first tee at 40 and have no fear at all. But yeah, to your point, I mean, I've had as many as 6,000 people in an audience, and not been nervous, because I'm like, I know my material. I know this program. I'm going to deliver. I'll be like pumped up, but I'm not scared. Like, I know I'm good. But my clubhouse is right behind the first tee at my club. And they announce you to the first tee. They'll say, on the team, there's Danny Cahill and his partner, and I know that nobody cares where I hit the ball. I know they've all hit bad shots, and it's still terrifying. I'm just like, I just don't embarrass myself. Just hit the ball off the first tee. And it's amazing to me how it can make me nervous in a way that speaking doesn't. And, I've been paid to speak. And if I bomb it as a speaker, it's really important. If I bomb as a golfer, so what? So what? But it doesn't feel that way. That's what makes golf so amazing.
There's no paycheck at the end of the day as an amateur golfer.
Yeah, I'm definitely among the group that pays to play. No question about that.
So, as we kind of wrap up our conversation here, I have a few just sort of general golf questions I like to ask. So, as far as favorite golf courses that you've ever had an opportunity to play, what's your favorite?
I played Pebble, and it was a seriously cold, rainy day, and I could be the only person in the history of Pebble Beach who was happy when it was over. I wasn't one of these guys saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe it." No, I was like, "Can we leave now? It is cold here." So I played Pebble. I played Whistling Straits, and it nearly broke me. I mean, I almost went back to tennis. I was like, I'm not good enough to play this golf course. This is hard. I played Pinehurst. I would say, believe it or not, I think my favorite golf course that I've ever played is Pasatiempo in Northern California. It's a beautiful place.
Yeah. Now, I've seen pictures of Pebble Beach. I've played Pebble Beach, but I had a perfect, blue sky, 0 wind day.
Did you?
But like, I've seen some of those where, on 6 or whatever, it's blowing 100 miles an hour in your face and you're hitting.
Oh my God.
120 miles or 120 yards or whatever.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine how tough that is. But as far as Pasatiempo, 100% agree. I think it's
amazing, right? Yeah.
If you ever get a chance to get out there, it's just pristine, and Alistair McKenzie. Bucket list. So where haven't you played that you wish you could get onto?
So I want to do Bandon Dunes, but I'm in Connecticut, right? So it's like 13 hours door to door to get there. And every year someone asks me, and I think about it, and then I find an excuse not to go. So I want to do Bandon. I just have a hard time with the amount of time it takes to get there. I could literally be at St. Andrews in half the time it takes me, to get to Bandon Dunes. But everybody who goes there makes it sound like it's this mythical religious experience. So part of me wants to go. Have you done that? You done Bandon?
I haven't, and it's not too far from Montana either. I've got plenty of friends that have said, it's incredible. And with this 25th anniversary or whatever, it's been all over the golf media on top of that, which is sort of, just kind of pulling you in a little bit more. But I've heard, just fantastic things. Every course is top notch. It's sort of like Pinehurst. It's a little bit like a Disney World of golf that you can just go for a week and have some incredible places. So with your personal golf game, any particular goals on the horizon for the next year or 5 years that you'd like to tackle?
So, I've reached that point where, when you start playing in your 40s, you're never going to have a pretty golf swing. I also was a weightlifter for 20 years, so I had flexibility issues. I was super fortunate that I had, enough means I recognized right away that when golf teachers were trying to put me in certain positions, my body wouldn't get there. And if I couldn't get there in a lesson, I certainly wasn't going to be able to do it on a repetitive basis. So I was frustrated, and I went to PGA National when Mike Adams was there, top 10 Golf Digest guy. And thank God, because he has this theory. He calls it the laws of golf. Either you're a leverage golfer, you're an arc golfer, or you're a width golfer. And a width golfer is just a nice way of saying you're not very mobile. And if you're someone who's strong physically, like a weightlifter, he taught me how to basically stay as low as I can, short as I can. Like picture John Rahm, only nowhere near as good. Set the wrist early, and then people will see me swing and say, that guy just sort of slaps it like a hockey player. He doesn't even like bring it above his hips. But once I did that, then I went from just miserable all the time, 25 handicap, hitting it all over the place, to being able to hit this, low draw. And I'll never hit it big. I'm a popcorn hitter. But I hit it straight. I keep it in play, and I can play the game. And I got down to 10, 12 handicap pretty quickly. So now my thing is that's never going to change. I'm not going to say, oh, that new Callaway driver is going to change my life. No. What's going to change my life is chipping and putting, and that's how I'm going to get from 10 to 6 or 7. As long as I play the right tees and I chip and putt, I can win some money on occasion. But I gave up the whole idea of this is the year when I'm going to hit it this far and learn how to work the ball. And no. You gotta make peace with where you are and what you are.
So as far as dream golf foursome, if you could, living or historical figure, who would the other 3 people be if you had?
First one's easy because I find Lee Trevino hilarious. You think about the funniest things ever said about golf, and he said 90% of them. So I don't know how you could not have him in the foursome. Probably Faraday for similar reasons, and McCord. Like, I want to have a good time out there. I don't want to play with Jack Nicklaus and tell me about the 1986 Masters. I've already watched the 1986 Masters. But get those 3 guys on a golf course, and you will laugh all the way around.
Trevino's been sort of like back in the public eye again recently. It's kind of interesting.
It seems like he's doing more YouTube instruction stuff. The way Patty Harrington is all of a sudden making a name for himself doing YouTube. I think that's smart. He's still got a lot to teach. He's not going to show you how to hit a driver, but he does a lot of YouTubes with wedge play and mindset. And, he's still funny, man. He's still funny. He's a funny guy.
So not, Bill Murray or anything?
No, I would want to play with actual golfers, but actually, I shouldn't say that. Murray looks like he plays pretty well too when they have him on those pro-ams.
A single digit handicap.
Yeah.
So awesome, Danny. This has been fantastic, and I'll make sure that we drop a link to how to quit golf and get your life back.
Thank you.
Do you want to share where to find the book, and also
the book is
where to find you for speaking and all that?
Sure. The book is certainly in bookstores, but it's on Amazon. It's available in Kindle, hardcover, and I've done the Audible version. So the Audible version is available. My speaking company is called accordingtodanny.com. And people search on YouTube and stuff. You'll find shorts of my webinars if anybody's interested. But I appreciate your time, Scott. Thank you.
Yeah. And before we kind of wrap, anything else you want to add, or anything we might have missed today?
Not really. I would just ask that if anybody does read the book, I'd love to hear from you. So send me an email, tell me what you think. And a lot of people have been sending me some really funny golf stories of their own. So that's been fun for me.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, and I'm partway through. I kind of, tried to get through as much as I could before our meeting today, but looking forward to finishing it up and
I appreciate that.
And staying in touch. So again, I'll drop a link to the book in the bio, as well as your speaking company, and or in the description here. And go check it out. How to Quit Golf and Get Your Life Back. Thanks so much for joining me today, Danny. And
thank you, Scott. Appreciate your time.
Look forward to keeping in touch.
All right. Thank you, sir.
That concludes today's episode of A Good Walk Spoiled, Adventures in Golf, hosted by Scott Ponywise. That's myself. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to like, subscribe, rate it high, and follow us on Instagram at pony_golf to stay in the loop. We'll catch you next time.